Morning. Hope you guys are having a beautiful start to the weekend. And we are here for another episode of the Better Body Academy podcast. Pretty stoked to get this started. So guys, what's going on as you're coming into this one? Let us know in the comments that you are here live and ready to get some value, because this episode is going to be a big one. So if you come into this one later on, please do hashtag replay into the comments. Let's just make sure that you get, I want to know who's paying attention, who's doing this, because this episode I really do feel is going to be a hard hitter. So thanks for coming in, team, to those of you that are. I hope you've had a beautiful weekend. Let us know in the comments what you got up to on the weekend, guys. What's been happening? Did you get some recharge in? We've got some kind of, I wouldn't say new viewers, but some ladies and gents who aren't as consistent. JC Williams, first one in here, mate. I love this, brother. How's your recovery going, Jace? I would love to know, mate. I hope things are traveling okay. Hello, Kenny and Hayes. Lovely to have your company here this morning, guys. Tez is in here. Hello, Tezzy. How are you, my main man? Tez, I just want to say, dude, what a legend you are. Such great support in getting down there to visit Nico for the weekend, mate. What a guy. Nicky friend, how are you, mate? Guys, we're getting started in just over a minute. Xanth, how are you, Xanth? Thank you very much every day, Xanth, for sharing the podcast into your squad like a good squad leader. Hello, Kaylee. Lovely to have your company in here this morning, guys. Cherie's in here as well. Hello, Cherie. We've got Kristen in here. Claire's in here as well. Hello, Lozzie. What's going on? Troy, my main man, you're going to feature in this podcast at the end. Good morning, Jace. I don't know who that is, but I love you anyway. We're getting started in just under 45 seconds, team. Who else have we got? Kevy Grant, mate, congratulations on your run, Kev. And I just want to say, brother, I appreciate the hell out of you and the way that you represent our mission. Everything you do, mate, is just unreal. I went to a full moon ceremony, realizing that things are holding me back. I love that. Hopefully we can get unstuck. Hello, Meals. How are you, girlfriend? I hope you've had a beautiful weekend. Crazy Koala on YouTube. I like your videos. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Guys, we're starting in 10 seconds. Hi, mate. Don't know who that is, but I love you. Guys, I think we are ready to rock and roll. So we've got 21 people. Good morning, Ems. How are you? 21 people watching this one live. So if you do come in on replay, please hashtag replay in the comments. And let's get started on the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back to the Better Body Academy podcast. This is the podcast that you come to when you are sick of the dumb diets and unsustainable workout programs. Now, in today's episode, pretty provocative title, obviously. Life's not guaranteed, stop wasting it. Firstly, before I get into the episode, I really do want to say congratulations to everyone inside of Better Body Academy, and for that mark, anyone that's not inside of Better Body Academy that's participating in the push-up challenge. This has been run through Australia. This push-up challenge is indeed a bloody challenge. I think the last Saturday's push-ups was like 175 push-ups over the day. This is not meant to be a walk in the park. So don't be surprised if it's hard. But the point is we want it to be hard because it's in the name of representing mental health and suicide. And so please just understand that it's not meant to be easy. The other thing I do want to shout out is to our boys inside of Better Body Academy who live in Australia, particularly those of you on the East Coast. We released over the weekend spots for our retreat. It's already 12 or 15 guys that are already being part of it. I really would just suggest, and maybe this podcast will be the trigger for you, you should be getting along to that. If Kev didn't live on the other side of the world, he'd be the first one signed up. Get into the men's retreat, which is going to be in the Hunter Valley in September. This is going to be amazing, and there are only 35 spots. Let's go into today's podcast. This is going to be very different. This podcast is as much for me as it is for you, but I am going to call you out, okay? I'm going to call you out to step up and change your own life. I'm going to call you out to step up and speak your truth, your feelings. I'm calling you out to share love, more often. I'm calling you out because today, if you suddenly drop dead, a lot of people are going to miss you, and therefore you have a legacy to work on. You owe this to your kids, you owe this to your family, you owe this to the world. So let me give context on why I'm doing this episode. I'm personally part of a coaching program with over 1,500 other online coaches. I've been in that program for about 3 years. The environment that my coach has created is unbelievable. It's vulnerable, it's empowering, and it's very, very similar to what we've got inside of Better Body Academy, only that it's for fitness coaches, not everyday men and women like you guys. Now, like all good communities, there's lots of friendly competition, but there are people at all different levels, all different chapters of the book that are helping each other out. One of the greatest parts of being in this community for 3 years is having seen other coaches grow so they too can start helping out other people, everyday men and women like you and I, to achieve their fitness goals. I'll tell you what, I've kind of realized, if you get in this industry to try to make a lot of money as your primary driver, it's going to be very, very freaking tough because you're dealing with a lot of people's emotions. Now, one of the men in this community, his name is Mike, okay? I've actually never met him, but he impacted me indirectly through his words and through his actions. Mike is a 41-year-old personal trainer. He's a father of 2 kids, engaged, living in Vancouver, that was stuck a year or so ago in a job that he hated. Okay? He was sneaking out of his work to, in meetings to jump on coaching calls with our coach because he knew that he had something massive to offer the world, more than he was currently giving. And so he was kind of jeopardizing his job to be able to do that. Over the last year, I've seen Mike work tirelessly to expand his vision. He quit his job. He built his business. His clients absolutely love him. And it's like phenomenal and inspiring to watch. About 3 or 4 weeks ago, he appeared on an interview podcast with my coach, Brian. And this interview was so raw, honest, and authentic. I listened to it twice to kind of personally get full inspiration out of that episode. He talked about how he was struggling to be across everything, his clients, his family, his health. And he was actually due just this weekend gone past to compete in a bodybuilding show where he would earn his pro card. This was a guy that was really willing to work for it. He put everything into it. And despite all the failures that he was having, particularly in his coaching business, because he really struggled at the time, he just kept showing up. And then a few days ago, last Friday, just before he was ready to board the flight to his bodybuilding show, he passed away suddenly. I'm going to try to kind of bite my emotions a little bit through this, but if they come out, then that's why. I never really knew Mike personally, but this hit me. It hit me. If you're an avid listener of this podcast, you know that I've spoken about death a lot, a fair bit, and how we've got to leverage our own mortality and actually start living rather than just existing. I truly believe that most people they just let the days pass without actually realizing that they're the person captaining their own ship. Most people don't realize that a lot of the pain and suffering that they're going through is because they are actually choosing it through their own inaction. And what do I mean by this? This inaction is usually because they think they're too broken. And let me know in the comments if this is you. Kind of think you're too broken. You think you're too far gone. You think that losing weight and getting in shape is really difficult and complicated. And so what we do is we stay stuck rather than being judged if we fail, if we mess it up. I've even, I've spoken about this a lot. And even though I've spoken about it a lot, Mike's passing has hit me on an all new level. On Friday, when my coach posted into the group, for the next 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours, I literally sat here just staring at my computer. It felt like my heart was literally like trying to, it was like, I don't really know how to describe it. It was almost like my heart had arms and it was trying to like pull itself out of my chest. That's the only way I can describe it. I had this huge amount of sickness and I just couldn't concentrate. So I got down on Friday and just slept on the ground in this office. Why did it hit me so hard? Because it was so close to home. A 41-year-old, I turn 41 next Saturday, online coach from Vancouver, which is where I live, with 2 kids, which is what I've got, who'd been stuck in a job that he hated for years. Sound familiar? Mike was in far superior condition than I am. And so the reality of this situation, it just hit so hard, and I feel for his family on like a whole new level. It's been on my mind all weekend while I tangle with the challenge of being a 41-year-old online coach in Vancouver with 2 kids and a partner that's doing my best to create a legacy that goes far beyond me, yet still be a healthy father that protects for his kids, provides for his kids, and inspires my own family. Mike's passing made me think about my life and the way that I live it, and my own worldview. Now, there's this kind of thing that happens, this interesting thing that happens, and I really encourage you guys to get involved in this podcast and let me know in the comments. Every time someone close to us passes, I feel like there's this moment of extreme presence. Like when we just like snap out of our life and we just become really conscious, where we start to think about the way we live. It usually comes, for me personally, during the funeral. Maybe lasts an hour or 2 before we naturally kind of shift back to dealing with our own lives. Do you guys get that same thing? I mean, it's not the nicest thing to talk about, but do you guys get that same thing? That thing where you're listening to the stories about the person's life and the love they shared and the good things they did. And it's like, it's there. It's like really intense as you think about it and you're emotional. And then, as the day passes, it sort of leaves you. One of my mentors, Alex Hormozi, captured this perfectly when, he quoted, "The Queen of England died 5 months ago." He wrote this on Twitter. "She ruled an entire nation. She amassed more wealth than 99.99% of humans, and yet you haven't thought about her since. You're going to die. Everyone will move on. Start doing what you want now." Have a think about that. Have you thought about the Queen again? And she was probably the most famous person on earth, right? But have you thought about her again? So is it possible that you're not doing what you want for fear of being judged and failing? No one gives a shit. This extreme presence for me around Mike's death, a guy that I haven't even actually met or spoken to, has lasted the entire weekend for me. So while it's here, and it's only because I see myself in his situation so clearly, I wanted to capture my thoughts in a podcast episode really for myself, because I know that the feeling will leave me. So I wanted to capture them in an episode. And I want to share them with you. My approach has always been, if there's one person listening to this podcast and that person benefits, amazing. So I'll share them. I've written down 10 upon reflection today, and I'm not going to elaborate on the point. I just really want to let it sit with you. And if there's anything that feels like maybe you want to write it down, or when the podcast is produced, you want to listen to it again, please do so. Number 1, life is actually really, really short when you think about it. Spending time half of it maybe, doing something you fucking hate is crazy actually when you think about it, right? It's mental when you think about it. But when you're locked in the day-to-day monotony of your life, years can pass. I turn 41 next week, and it's like where did that time go? Number 2, and if any of these hit, please let me know, guys. Number 2, raising kids is challenging, but not nearly as challenging as it will be for your partner if you're not here. 3, spending lots of money on experiencing things with loved ones is the best way to spend money. Number 4, don't think that being healthy makes you invincible. So don't use your good health as a justification to delay your life goals. And this is especially true of Mike. And so for me, that really kind of hits hard. 5, ask yourself often, what do I want to do next? Because I think a lot of us, what we do is we get to the thing that we wanted to achieve, and it's a real, it's a big thing. We get to the top of the mountain and we achieve it. And then we stop looking for the next thing to keep us inspired, to keep us excited. Number 6, people will judge you and blame you either way, whether you do it their way or your way. So you might as well do it your way. Number 7, it's a big one. It's easy to have kids. It's hard to parent. And that's because parenting is mostly about being a good role model. Number 8, don't occupy yourself fully by always doing. When you stop, you actually get to know yourself better. I had a moment just now before this podcast where I walked upstairs. It's really, really sunny today and beautiful in Vancouver. And I got an ice block with my daughter, Ocean, and I sat her on my lap facing me with her legs around me. And I just kissed her on the nose, and it was so special. And sometimes when you're just so busy trying to get to the next thing, you fucking forget what's in front of you. Number 9, there's always more work to do while you're alive. There's always more work to do, especially if you're an ambitious entrepreneur type. It's the life part that's not guaranteed. Number 10, doesn't matter how many times you talk about death, most people will continue acting as if it's not going to happen to them. I don't know if you take any benefit out of that, guys, but for me, I wanted to consolidate some teachings for me. You might think to yourself, what a way to start a week. A few of you might look at this or listening to this and switch off and just think, well, that doesn't really hit me because I don't know the guy. Neither did I, but I could see myself in him. And it's not pessimistic. This is not a pessimistic outlook. Not at all. I feel like my role in the world is to get people to start living now. That's what I truly believe. Whether you agree with it or whether you feel it is indifferent, but that's what I feel like my role in the world is. Sometimes that involves having hard conversations, and to be honest, one thing that I need to get better at is calling people out when they're making excuses and not just thinking to themselves, well, I want to keep them on as a client, so I've got to be nice to them. Being nice sometimes just is not the right action as a coach. I'm not going to look back at my life and think, how many friends did I make coaching? I have made a hell of a lot of friends inadvertently by leading with passion and purpose. Men like Kev and Nico and Nick Duggan and Terry and Nick Friend. And the problem is, as soon as I start rattling them off, I feel like it becomes like as if it's limited to that. But this is a consequence of being real. I'm going to look back at my life and ask how many people did I help change? And I say helped because you can only help someone who has the courage to first help themselves. Now, I said that I'd mention something from Troy. I want to share a snippet from a message that Troy Whitelam sent me over the weekend. He said, I don't know how many times I've said this to myself and to others in the last few months, but I've never been this person before in my life, and I love the person that I am today. I know there's still a road ahead. By the way, Troy's lost about 30 kilos. And there's always a long time ahead, no matter where you are in life. But I want to thank you and Steve Byron again for everything, for inspiring me to get into this program. I've gone from being massively overweight, mentally unstable, to someone that looks at things from a completely different perspective every time I have a decision to make. And for me, there's two levels to this. And here are the two levels. Number one, there's the client level. Can you imagine feeling like Troy? So many of you that listen to this podcast have made a decision to be in the program, but you haven't made a decision to actually be in the program. And so many people are sitting on the sidelines listening to this podcast. You know, I'll do it at the right time and I'll get around to it. It's not the way to go. Like going from broken and blaming the world like Troy did to living and feeling love every day and power, that's the transformation that awaits you if you are ready to get uncomfortable. I've said it before, this is not about fucking fat loss. This is not about fat loss. People that think that this program that we run is about fat loss are not in our inner circle. They are not deep in our community because they would understand that this is not about fat loss. This is about connection and leveling your life up. And fat loss is the start point, but you're not doing it for fat loss. You're doing it because you want a better life. You want to feel more love and more freedom because it's not fucking guaranteed tomorrow, like for Mike. And fat loss is the entry point. Secondly, can you imagine the power of creating a legacy? Of doing something in the world that impacts others? This doesn't have to be coaching, but impacts others, that transcends financial reward you get. I would do this shit for free if I can survive. This is what awaits you if you go after what you want. And I'm not saying that you need to quit your job and like that's kind of that carpe diem mentality. It's just doesn't feel right for me. It's like throw the baby out with the bathwater. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that you've got to make money, but sacrificing your fucking soul for someone without a grander purpose, to me is just like, it's crazy. And I will acknowledge that I did that for 12 to 13 years myself. And this is the reason that I can speak about this now that I feel what I feel. And I get a message like that from Troy and it's like, fuck, wow. So just to finish out this podcast, guys, I want to just give a heartfelt tribute to a man that I've never met. You created a legacy, bro, because even though I didn't know you, I resonate so much and feel so greatly for your family and your kids, and for your clients that knew you. And I say this from the bottom of my heart. If you're a client of mine or one of our coaches, allowing us to do what we get to do is for me the greatest privilege. It gives me a life that I can be really proud of. And I just hope that it makes a difference in yours, because at the end of the day, when I meet my maker, and I'm not a religious person in any fashion, I just care about the love that I spread. And sometimes you have to be hard to deliver that love. And I'm not going to stop trying. So to all of you that are in my circle, in my community, I just want to say Thank you so much. This has been the Better Body Academy podcast. I'll see you guys in the next episode.